Hey, what is going on you guys? It's Epic here and I'm looking very handsome today in front of this awesome view, and that is because I am happy for two reasons. Bruh, stop that, just stop. Anyway, like I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, I am happy because today not only am I feeling a lot better. If you've been following me on Twitter, you'll know that I've been really sick. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. But you'll also know that for the longest of time, I've been waiting to show you guys my Shockhound Zane build for Mayhem 4. Now, as with all of my builds, this build of course works great on Mayhem 4. You can solo the Maliwan Takedown with it just fine. And also, TVHM and normal mode and like Mayhem 1, 2 and 3, they are just an absolute cakewalk with this build. And you know, if you know me, I've been very faithful to my Gunslinger Zane build, but after I discovered this build and, you know, tested it out and whatnot, I can never go back to the Gunslinger. Like, this is my main build. So the build itself is on screen now. You can just pause the video if you want and copy that directly into your game. And you guys know me, I'm not the most technical person, so I'm not going to go full in depth on why I have exactly 2.5 skill points into a certain skill. That's not what I'm about. But like a few things I should talk about, for example, is like the decision to pick C in red and go so far down the drone tree. And I just felt like having the capstone skill of the drone tree was very helpful, and I definitely noticed a big improvement in my gameplay when I was using it. Some other notable changes that I had with the build was deciding not to go down the whole cryo damage route, especially with my action skill augment on the drone. I just personally didn't see a big enough improvement when I was using cryo damage as a whole, and I also got rid of the skill letting my drone drop a grenade. So there are a few skills in this build which I know a few of you are going to be really confused as to why they are in there or why they are not in there. But just know that I did a lot of testing. Like, I can't even explain to you just how much testing I put this build through. One thing I do really like about the build, and this is a decision that I stand by and I will defend it till the day I die, I actually went really high into lifesteal, and I can't tell you just how easy it is to stay alive using that. Like, running through Maliwan Takedown, as you probably know, is really difficult on Mayhem 4 just because of how tanky some of the enemies are, and not to mention that, but just how quick they can drain your health if you're not spec'd properly. So what I'm really happy about is that with this build there is so many ways to stay alive and keep your health up using that lifesteal. And of course the electric banjo plays a big part in all of that, as you will find out very soon. So now that we've spoken about the skills, let me show you guys what I'm actually using for my gear. So obviously this needs no introduction. I am running the Maggie, and I can't even, again, like, I don't need to explain why this weapon is in the build. If you've been living under a rock, the Maggie is like the best pistol in the game and I love it. Second of all, I use a Brainstormer. Now, since I picked up the redistributor, which we'll get to in a second, I haven't used it a lot, but it is still a very handy weapon. And since the redistributor is actually quite a difficult weapon to get a hold of, the Brainstormer will be the better pick. I have a Rowan's Call in the fire element. You could use a Lucian's Call, or you could even sub this out with a King's Call, but for me I prefer the Rowan's Call for its high fire rate without the spin up time. And I'll use this weapon anytime I come across a really beefy tanky enemy and I can just lay into them. And because we spec into Brain Freeze, that means that the Rowan's Call is a really handy weapon to have, because you can pretty much lay shots off into an enemy until they are either dead or frozen, in which case you can just keep shooting them. If you don't already know, the whole idea is that you hit a crit and then you basically have infinite ammo the more crits you hit, and yeah. And then the most important and, you know, obviously the hardest weapon to get in this build is the redistributor. Now, I only have a shock and a cryo one. I would like a corrosive one, and if you can get one, it is of course part of this build, but I can't get my hands on one. But I cannot tell you guys just how important this weapon is for the build. It is like the OG. So the way the redistributor works, every 7th shot you fire off is not only going to be an amped bullet, but it's also going to rebound to the nearest enemy. Now mix this with the electric banjo relic, which we're going to get into in just a second, and this gun literally shreds enemies in seconds. Like, you don't even have time to see their health go down because they die so quick. And even against a normal enemy like this one here, you can see that it just does a ton of damage, and this is only a shock element. If you had like a cryo on right now, or even like an incendiary or corrosive, it would probably deal a lot more damage. But I would say the most crucial element to have in the redistributor is the shock one, as when you're running the Maliwan takedown, there are a ton of shielded enemies. So yeah, for that reason, the redistributor is a very, very, very important weapon in this build, and I'll have some clips on screen now of me just absolutely dominating with it. This weapon, like I have already said many times, is extremely important, and if you've got it on, you're going to see a massive jump in the effectiveness of this build. And of course, if you're just running around with a brainstormer, then it's going to be a lot less effective, but the brainstormer is still very handy for keeping your life up. Now into my shield, I use a band of Citarac, because when your shield is depleted, you gain 22% weapon damage, and you also gain a buff to movement speed. You can see that it has a really low capacity, which obviously is not ideal for every time like you're playing. Oh my god, okay. So of course, when I'm not playing the Maliwan takedown or anything like that, I use my trusty transformer. This of course makes it so that you absorb bullets and also just don't take any damage from shock damage as it is, which fits into the whole Shockhound thing. And when I was originally making this build, I did have the transformer as the shield to go with, but I just noticed that when it came to boss fights, the band of Citarac is just way better for dealing damage as a whole. So for my class mod, I'm using the Cheap Shot Seeing Dead. This is a new class mod in the Moxie's DLC, and of course I'm sure you saw this coming. This is basically needed for any of these kind of builds, and this basically does a lot of cool stuff, but the main thing that it does is that when you shoot an enemy, you have a chance to automatically activate all of your kill skills, and they also get a 25% bonus to their overall effect. So that means if you look at the bottom of my screen here, when I go to shoot these enemies, all of my kill skills are going to proc on screen, and they can even stack. And that is very, very handy. So that means you're basically going to have life steal all of the time. So overall, it's a very handy class mod, and in my opinion is needed for this build. So you're not going to be using grenades in this build like at all, but for those of you who are curious, I do have a quasar, but you're just not going to use a grenade. For my relic, I have the electric banjo. This drops from the psychobillies in Ambermire, and I can honestly say it is, apart from the class mod and the redistributor, the most needed item of the build. So if you don't know what the relic does, it's basically an Easter egg to a game called Risk of Rain 2, and in that game there is an item called the electric banjo, and when you attack an enemy, it makes electric chain to all of the enemies nearby, so like that. Mix that with like the redistributor effect, for example, and you just get crazy amounts of damage no matter what weapon you're using. Now I will say the only bad thing about me using this item is that it is very, very hard to get dropped. In fact, I didn't even get this dropped. I got this dropped from Valentine, and I can honestly say without him sending it to me, I wouldn't have got it. This relic has such a low drop rate, it's actually crazy, and I just, Gearbox have to fix it. It's ridiculously hard to get to drop. But they do say that the best things are the hardest to find, and I can totally vouch for that because the electric banjo is absolutely insane. Now, as for the other weapons, if you do care about having them on, I run around with, of course, any other element redistributor I can get my hands on. I also have a ion cannon in basically every element. I've already made a video on this. If you want to go and check it out, the link is in the description. Very good rocket launcher and very handy for just absolutely annihilating every single enemy you come across. I have a Cutsman in the shock and the corrosive element for when I'm taking down Wotan. I also carry a corrosive scourge. This is very handy as well for any robots. This thing just absolutely shreds them. And also, if you could get your hands on it, I guess you could get one in every element, but basically this will do a lot more damage when you're moving at a very high movement speed, and you can just slide shoot this thing and it will deal an absolute ton of damage and just destroy anything in its path. Also, if you can get a dictator in every element, these are also great if you just want a change of pace. Of course, I have the transformer here, and I also have a snowdrift relic as well if I want to get that really fast slide speed, but I rarely put it on because the electric banjo is just absolutely insane. But apart from that, that basically does it for my build. I'm very sorry that I couldn't put a lot more energy into this video. While I am feeling a lot better after being sick, I'm still kind of, you know, I've got the little side effects of it, so I'm still feeling quite under the weather, but I tried my best to get this video out. I just couldn't stay away any longer. I had to get this build out, and it really upset me as well because in the time that I was away and I couldn't show you guys this build, so many YouTubers that I've seen have come out with a build very similar to this, and you know, it's a real shame because I put a lot of work into this build, and I know I'm gonna get comments like, hey, you copied this build from this YouTuber or that YouTuber, and I just know that it's not the case. But for those of you who are regulars on my channel, you'll know that I don't steal ideas from other YouTubers, and you know, I put a lot of work into my content. But anyway guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope you like this build. Go and wreck some ass with it and tell me just how great it is. I absolutely love it. I can't stop playing with it. Like, this build for me has been a total change of pace on Borderlands and just made this game way more fun to play. It's so cool. So guys, thank you so much for your support as of late, and thank you for watching this video. We are actually coming up on 5,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. I never thought I would hit a milestone like that, and it just means a lot to me, so I'm very excited to hit it, and I hope you guys are as well. But with that being said guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and thank you so much for your support as of late. And with that being said, thank you for watching and have a nice day.